Welcome to Despicable Maine Deep Dive. Today on the show, shocking psychology tricks that will instantly shift your perspective.
Ooh, sounds juicy.
Doesn't it? We've got some source material today, a YouTube deep dive, and also a document that's basically spilling the beans on all sorts of deceptive psychological effects.
Right, the sneaky stuff.
Exactly. So our mission, our goal here is to really unpack these mental maneuvers, the ways people try to twist thoughts, beliefs, maybe even, your actions.
And this isn't just theory, right? This is everyday stuff.
Totally. Forget abstract concepts. These are like hidden strings pulling at your choices, and you probably don't even notice most of the time. So hopefully prepare for some aha moments. We're going to pull back the curtain, see how these tricks work, and maybe figure out how to spot them.
Sounds good.
All right.
It's all about understanding that sort of architecture of influence, isn't it?
Yeah, well put. Okay, where should we start?
Let's dive right into the illusion of truth effect.
Illusion of truth. Okay.
What's really fascinating here is just how repetition, it just paves the road to belief, even if the road is, paved with total lies.
So hear something enough times and you just start accepting it.
Pretty much. The more often you hear something, it doesn't matter if it's true or false, the more likely you are to think, yeah, that sounds right. Familiarity feels safe.
Like our brains are lazy.
Well, maybe efficient is a kinder word. But yeah, they take shortcuts. Think about it, verifying every single thing you hear. That'd be exhausting.
True.
So repeated ideas, they feel easier to process. It's called processing fluency. And we mistake that ease for, well, truthfulness.
Okay, give me an example. Something big.
Right. How about the classic? Humans only use 10% of their brains.
Oh, yeah. Heard that one forever. Still hear it.
Exactly. And neuroscience has been debunking it for decades, right? Brain scans, research. None of it supports the 10% idea, but it just hangs around.
Because it gets repeated ad nauseum.
Precisely. The constant repetition makes it feel familiar, and so for a lot of people, that feels credible enough.
It's like that urban legend about, I don't know, crocodiles in the sewers. Keeps popping up.
And this isn't just, harmless trivia we're talking about.
No, I bet. How's it exploited?
Oh, all over the place. Businesses, obviously. Repetitive slogans, jingles stuck in your head.
Oh, those earworms.
They're banking on familiarity breeding sales, not contempt. Politicians, same game, repeat key messages, talking points over and over.
Run to drill it in.
Yeah, shaping public opinion by sheer force of repetition. Even the media can accidentally amplify misinformation just by, constantly reporting on it.
So that catchy jingle isn't just annoying, it's actually trying to rewire my brain chemistry to buy soap.
Kind of. The source document really emphasizes this. Repeated exposure, even to stuff with zero evidence, can chip away at your skepticism.
Yeah.
You start to just accept it.
Okay, that's a bit creepy. So how do we fight back? How do you stay grounded?
Well, the first step is just awareness, right? Cultivating that critical mindset. Don't just passively soak information up, especially if you've heard it a bunch.
Question it.
Actively question it. Ask, where did I hear this? Is the source reliable? Try to verify it independently. Look for actual evidence.
Especially if it confirms what you already thought or makes you really angry.
Exactly. Those are red flags. Cross-reference, check who's saying it. Basically, be your own fact checker.
Okay, mental note. Become a fact checker. Right, what's next? Authority bias.
Ah, yes. Authority bias.
That sounds like we just automatically believe anyone in a white coat or with a fancy title, even if they sound like completely bonkers.
That's pretty much the gist of it, yeah. It's our tendency, often automatic, to believe, trust, and follow figures we perceive as authorities.
Even if it flies in the face of logic.
Often, yes. It's another one of those mental shortcuts.
Brain being lazy again. Or efficient.
Right, efficient. Thinking, well, if this person's the expert, they must know. It saves mental energy compared to evaluating everything ourselves.
But it can lead you down the garden path, presumably?
Absolutely. It can make you suspend your own critical thinking. The document mentions this can really lead you astray if the authority is misplaced or, has bad intentions.
The YouTube source brought up the Milgram experiments. Those were seriously disturbing.
Oh, deeply disturbing. They showed just how far people would go delivering what they thought were painful electric shocks just because a guy in a lab coat told them to continue.
It wasn't because they were bad people, right? It was the situation.
Exactly. The power of that perceived authority just overwhelmed their own moral judgment. It's that just following orders defense in a lab setting.
Chilling. Shows how easily we can switch off our own judgment when someone seems like they're in charge.
And you can bet this bias gets exploited.
How so?
Businesses use experts in ads all the time, right? Sometimes their credentials are questionable, let's say.
The celebrity doctor pushing the miracle cure?
Precisely. Advertisers use authoritative voices, maybe deep and serious sounding, to make claims seem more plausible. Media often leans heavily on official sources, sometimes without enough scrutiny of their biases.
So that expert endorsement might just be someone reading a script, and their expertise is worth about as much as, I don't know, a chocolate teapot.
Could be. Authority doesn't automatically mean truth. So the question is, how do we stop ourselves from just blindly following?
More mental self-defense needed.
Definitely. Make it a habit. Question authority. Not in a hostile way necessarily, but just pause. Ask why. Ask for evidence.
Don't just nod along.
Right. Seek out different perspectives. Verify things independently, no matter who said it. Real expertise usually welcomes questions, doesn't it?
Good point. Okay, moving on. The bystander effect. This one always feels kind of bleak to me.
Yeah, it's quite counterintuitive.
Like you're in a crowd, someone collapses, and everyone just stands there.
Well, not always. But the more people there are present in an emergency, the less likely any one person is to help. It's called diffusion of responsibility.
Diffusion of responsibility. So everyone thinks, oh, someone else will call 911 or someone else will step up.
Exactly. It's like passing the buck, mentally. We rely on others, assume they'll act, and that collective reliance can lead to total inaction.
Everyone waits for someone else and nobody does anything.
Tragically, yes. That's the potential outcome.
The transcript mentioned Kitty Genovese. That case is infamous.
It really brought this effect into the public eye. Reports said dozens of neighbors heard or saw parts of her attack, but everyone assumed someone else had already called the police or would intervene.
And the delay was fatal. Horrifying.
It is. And the source document highlights these potentially fatal consequences. It's a stark reminder that just being around other people doesn't guarantee safety or help.
We can't just assume someone else will play the hero.
Right. And it's not just life or death emergencies. Think about less dramatic situations, seeing someone being harassed or maybe unethical stuff happening at work.
You might just think someone else will report it, or it's not my place.
Exactly. Or seeing a stranger looking distressed on the street. You might walk past, assuming the next person will stop.
And the YouTube source mentions social media. How does that fit in?
Well, think about online pile-ons or seeing hateful comments. It's easy to feel like one person reporting it or speaking out won't make a difference when there are thousands of others seeing it too.
So the sheer scale makes it worse.
It can definitely amplify that feeling of diffuse responsibility. So the big question is, how do we break out of it? How do you avoid just standing by?
Guess you have to consciously fight that urge to blend in.
That's it. Make a conscious choice. Reject the impulse to defer responsibility. If you see something, be the one to act, even a small action.
Like just asking, are you okay?
Yeah.
Or making that call yourself.
Yes. And sometimes your action can actually snap others out of it too. It can break the spell and inspire them to help.
Okay, powerful stuff. Right next, the sleeper effect. Sounds sneaky. Like misinformation on a time delay.
That's a great way to put it. The sleeper effect is basically when a message from a source you know is unreliable.
Like some random website or a known liar.
Exactly. You dismiss it at first because, well, look at the source. But over time, the message itself can become more persuasive.
How? Because you forget where you heard it.
Precisely. Your brain, over time, tends to separate the message content from the source details. So that dodgy info you initially dismissed, it might pop back into your head later, detached from its untrustworthy origins.
And then it seems more credible, just because it feels familiar.
That initial warning, bad source, tag, fades away, and the message itself lingers, maybe seeming more believable just because it's floating around in your memory.
Like a rumor that starts super specific, my brother's girlfriend's cousin said, and a week later it's just, apparently.
Exactly. And the sources point out this is ripe for exploitation. Propagandists, advertisers, maybe political campaigns, they might deliberately plant information in less credible places.
Knowing the initial skepticism might wear off.
Yeah, knowing that over time, the message might detach from the dodgy source and gain a life of its own in people's minds.
So that attack ad you dismissed might still leave a negative impression weeks later, even if you can't remember where you saw it.
That's the insidious potential of the sleeper effect. It's delayed action influence.
Okay, time. How do we stop these sleeper agents of misinformation?
We need to strengthen the connection between the message and the source in our memory.
Actively remember who said it, not just what was said.
Exactly. When you encounter information, especially from a source you don't trust, make a conscious effort to tag it. Okay, remember this came from that dodgy site. Reinforce that link.
Like mentally attaching a danger, low credibility label?
Precisely. It helps maintain that initial skepticism even if the message itself resurfaces later.
Makes sense. Okay, next. Gambler's fallacy. This one's kind of funny to me. People thinking random events have a memory.
Yeah, it boils down to that. Gambler's fallacy is the mistaken belief that past independent random events influence future random events.
Like flipping a coin. If it lands heads 5 times in a row,
you start thinking, okay, tails is definitely due next time.
As if the coin is keeping score and feels obligated to even things out.
Exactly. Our brains crave patterns, right? Randomness feels messy, unsettling. So we try to impose order, predict sequences, even where none exist. The YouTube source really hits on how illogical but intuitive this feels.
It's like thinking your team is due for a win just because they've lost 10 straight. Their past suckiness doesn't guarantee future competence, sadly.
Painfully true analogy for some fans. And casinos. They love this fallacy.
Oh, I bet.
The Deceptive Effects document points this out clearly. Gamblers think after a losing streak, a win must be coming, so they keep betting, even though the odds on each spin or hand haven't changed at all.
And it goes beyond casinos, right? Lottery numbers.
Yep. Thinking a number is due because it hasn't shown up recently. It can creep into investment decisions, everyday superstitions about luck. Just seeing patterns where there's only chance.
So how do we fight this urge to find meaning in the meaningless?
Gotta embrace the randomness.
Just accept that the universe isn't keeping score on coin flips.
Pretty much. Understand the basic principle. Independent events are independent. Past results don't change future probabilities in things like coin flips or roulette spins, except the unpredictability.
Easier said than done when you feel like you're on a streak, I guess. Okay, next. Belief perseverance. Sounds stubborn.
Extremely stubborn. It's like trying to argue with a wall sometimes. Belief perseverance is our tendency to cling to our initial beliefs, even when we're shown overwhelming evidence that contradicts them.
So, facts be damned. You just double down.
Often, yeah. The YouTube video explains it well. Our beliefs get tangled up with our identity, our view of the world. When contradictory evidence comes along, it creates this mental discomfort, cognitive dissonance.
And the brain hates that feeling.
Exactly. So to reduce the discomfort, the brain might dismiss the evidence, rationalize it away, pick it apart, anything to protect that core belief.
Like trying to convince a flat earther with photos from space. They just come up with more elaborate explanations for why the photos are fake.
That's a perfect, if frustrating, example. And the document notes, this makes changing deeply held beliefs incredibly difficult. It can be exploited too. Debunked claims can still hold sway because people just won't let them go.
So a politician's lie gets exposed, but supporters just ignore the expose.
It happens all the time. So how do we deal with this in ourselves and others? It's tricky.
Requires a dose of humility, willingness to be wrong.
Huge doses. You have to actively question your own strongest beliefs. Be willing to seek out and genuinely consider evidence that challenges you. Embrace that cognitive dissonance discomfort as a sign you might be learning something, not as a threat.
It sounds like mental gymnastics. Okay, de-individuation, losing yourself in the crowd.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
De-individuation is when people in large groups feel a reduced sense of personal identity and responsibility. Self-awareness drops. And then people do stuff they wouldn't normally do, like suddenly joining in on flipping over a car after a game. Exactly. The anonymity of the crowd is key. You feel less accountable, less worried about being judged. Social restraints loosen. Suppressed impulses might come out.
And emotions get amplified in a group.
Definitely. It can all snowball, leading to extreme behavior. The YouTube source mentioned riots, mob mentality.
Yeah.
Classic, tragic examples.
Yeah, scary stuff.
And the other document points out online anonymity can do the same thing. Think about online mobs, cyberbullying. People say and do things behind a screen they'd never do face-to-face. De-individuation is at play there too.
So feeling like just one anonymous face makes us lose our moral compass.
It certainly can erode it. So the challenge is, how do you stay you when you're part of a big group?
Gotta consciously hang on to your own identity, your own values.
Exactly. Make an effort. Maintain self-awareness. Remind yourself, I am an individual. I am responsible for my actions, even if everyone around you is losing their head.
Tough when the crowd energy is high, I bet. Okay, next. Social proof, but the dark side. Isn't social proof usually like, oh, everyone's buying this, it must be good?
Right, that's the common understanding. We look to others to figure out how to behave. especially in uncertain situations. But the dark side, as both sources mention, is when we follow the crowd, even when the crowd is wrong, irrational, or unethical.
So just because everyone seems to believe some crazy conspiracy theory online doesn't make it true?
Absolutely not. Blindly trusting the crowd can lead to spreading misinformation like wildfire, adopting dangerous fads, or even participating in harmful group behavior. Collective action isn't always wise action.
So the wisdom of the crowd isn't always so wise. Sometimes it's the madness of the mob.
Precisely. So you need to consciously reclaim your independent judgment. Don't just default to, well, everyone else is doing it. Critically evaluate the situation, the information, for yourself.
Be willing to stand apart if the crowd seems off.
Exactly. Question the popular narrative. Don't be afraid to go against the grain if your own assessment tells you something's wrong.
Needs courage sometimes. Okay, loss aversion. This sounds like we hate losing more than we like winning.
That's it in a nutshell. Psychologically, the pain of a loss feels significantly stronger, maybe twice as strong, as the pleasure of an equivalent gain.
So losing $20 feels way worse than finding $20 feels good.
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
The YouTube example is the coin toss. Win $100 or lose $100. Even though it's a 50-50 shot, most people refuse because the thought of losing $100 looms larger than the prospect of winning $100.
Explains why we hang on to junk we don't need. The thought of losing it feels bad, even if it's clutter.
And marketers love this. Limited time offers, don't miss out, creating FOMO, fear of missing out. It all plays on our aversion to losing a perceived opportunity or bargain.
Politicians, too, emphasizing what you'll lose if you don't vote for them.
Definitely. Highlighting potential losses is often more motivating than highlighting potential gains. They'll take away your healthcare versus will improve your healthcare. The fear of loss is potent.
So those endless going out of business sales are just preying on my fear of losing a deal.
Often, yes. So how do we manage this? How do you avoid being ruled by fear of loss?
Try to be rational. Weigh the actual pros and cons, not just the feeling of potential loss.
That's the goal. Step back. Evaluate the objective risks and rewards. Ask yourself, is this fear of loss proportionate to the actual stakes? Or is it making me overly cautious or easily manipulated?
Easier said than done when that limited time offer countdown clock is ticking. Okay, framing effect. How things are presented matters more than the facts themselves.
Exactly. The way information is framed, the words used, the context given dramatically shapes how we perceive it and the decisions we make based on it, even if the underlying objective facts are identical.
Like the classic surgery example, 90% survival rate versus 10% mortality rate.
Precisely. Same statistic, totally different feeling. The YouTube source used that exact one. Survival sounds positive, hopeful. Mortality sounds negative, scary. One frame encourages the surgery, the other might discourage it.
And this is used everywhere, right? Marketing, politics?
Oh, constantly. How a policy is named, how a product benefit is described, how a news story is headlined. It's all framing, trying to elicit a specific emotional response and guide your judgment.
So we need to learn to mentally strip away the frame and look at the raw data underneath.
That's the ideal. Try to consciously reframe the information yourself. Ask, how else could this be described? What if they emphasize the opposite aspect? Recognize when your emotions are being steered by the presentation, not just the facts.
Be a critical reader, basically. Decode the spin. Okay, scarcity principle. We want what's hard to get.
Simple but powerful. Things seem more desirable, more valuable when they're perceived as limited, rare, or running out.
Only 2 left in stock. Limited edition. Sale ends Friday.
All classic scarcity tactics. Our brains make a quick jump. Scarce must mean valuable, and we need to act fast before it's gone. The urgency is key.
And this isn't always genuine scarcity, is it?
Often not. The document mentions this explicitly. Businesses create artificial scarcity all the time to drive demand. Sometimes it's legitimate, but often it's just a marketing ploy. Unethical scarcity tactics can really damage trust.
So when I see only 1 room left at this price, I should pause.
Definitely pause. Ask yourself, do I actually need this thing, or am I just feeling pressure because it seems scarce? Is this urgency real or manufactured? Separate the genuine desire from the fear of missing out.
Okay, take a breath before clicking Why Now on the limited edition llama-shaped toaster. Got it. Next. Decoy effect. This sounds like misdirection.
It really is. It's about introducing a third, strategically inferior option, the decoy, to make one of the 2 main options look much better by comparison.
Like at the cinema, small popcorn $7, large popcorn $8. But wait, there's a medium for $7.50 that looks tiny.
Perfect example. Nobody buys the medium decoy. Its only purpose is to make the large look like a fantastic deal compared to the small, pushing you towards the bigger, more profitable option.
Wow. So the decoy isn't meant to be chosen just to make something else look better.
Exactly. It subtly steers your preference without you realizing you're being nudged. The YouTube source really broke down how this manipulates our comparison process.
So in comparing options, we need to ask why each option is there. Is one just making another level artificially good?
Precisely. Question the whole set. Is one option clearly dominated by another in a way that seems convenient for the seller? Be aware you might be being steered.
Tricky. Okay, reciprocity norm, the dark side, feeling like you owe someone.
Right. The norm itself is good. Returning favors build social bonds. But the dark side is when it's exploited. Someone gives you a small, maybe unsolicited gift or favor.
Like those free address labels charities send.
Exactly. Or a free sample, a small compliment. It creates a subtle feeling of obligation. Now you feel more compelled to comply with a later, maybe much larger request.
Because you feel like you owe them for the address labels.
Subconsciously, yes. Businesses use free trials, gifts with purchase. It taps into that reciprocity urge. The document highlights this as a subtle but effective influence tactic.
So not every freebie is just generosity.
Not always. Be aware of the potential motivation. Did you ask for this? Does the follow-up request feel proportionate? Don't feel pressured to reciprocate if the initial gesture felt like a setup, or you simply don't want to.
Maintain healthy skepticism, even towards apparent kindness. Okay, reverse psychology. Telling someone not to do something to make them do it.
Pretty much. It plays on our desire for autonomy, our reactance against being controlled. Tell someone, especially someone prone to rebellion, not to do X, and it might just increase their desire to do exactly X.
Works great on teenagers, I hear.
Classically. But the YouTube source mentions businesses use it too. Making a product seem exclusive, not for everyone, forbidden, can paradoxically boost its appeal.
Like those don't push this button signs, you just have to push it.
Exactly. So how do you counter it?
Realize your inner rebel might be getting played.
Yeah. Recognize the tactic. Pause before reacting. Ask yourself, do I actually want to do this thing, or am I just reacting against being told not to? Base your decision on your own genuine preference, not just defiance.
Be less predictable, maybe. Okay, almost there. Self-reference effect, negative side. Focusing too much on ourselves.
We know relating things to ourselves helps memory. But the downside is, if we only focus on what's personally relevant, we can develop blind spots. We might miss important information or wider perspectives because they don't immediately connect to us.
So my problems seem huge, and I might overlook bigger societal issues that don't affect me directly.
That's one way it can manifest. It can distort your perception of what's important, basing it on personal relevance rather than objective significance or the impact on others.
So need to actively look beyond our own nose.
Basically, yes. Make an effort to understand perspectives and issues even if they don't seem immediately relevant to your own life. Broaden your focus.
Okay, widen the lens. Next, Pygmalion effect, negative expectations. Doubting others hurts them.
It can. Just like believing in someone, the positive Pygmalion effect can boost their performance. Holding negative expectations can subtly communicate that lack of belief. It can undermine their confidence, motivation,
and actually lead to them performing worse, like a self-fulfilling prophecy for them.
Exactly. Your low expectations can contribute to the very outcome you expected. If a teacher doesn't believe a student is capable, they might subtly offer less support, grade more harshly, hindering the student's success.
Wow. So our beliefs about others have real power.
They really can. So the takeaway, be mindful of your expectations. Are they fair? Are they based on evidence or bias? How might your beliefs be impacting others' performance?
Check your own assumptions. Okay, last one. Self-fulfilling prophecy, negative version, but about ourselves.
Right. This is when your own negative expectations about yourself influence your actions in a way that makes the feared outcome more likely. Believing you'll fail makes you more likely to fail.
So thinking, I'm definitely going to mess up this presentation.
Might make you so anxious that you actually do fumble your words, forget your points, and mess up the presentation. Your belief influenced your behavior, which caused the outcome.
A vicious cycle. How do you break it?
Got to challenge those negative beliefs head on. Recognize when you're engaging in negative self-talk. Actively replace it with more realistic, maybe even positive expectations. Focus on preparation and effort, not just predetermined failure.
Cultivate realistic optimism, maybe.
Exactly. Easier said than done, but crucial. Okay, wow, we covered a lot. That was a real dive into some mind-bending psychological tricks.
Seriously, it really shows the subtle, sometimes invisible ways our thoughts or decisions can be influenced, even manipulated.
Yeah, think about that illusion of truth again. How many things do you believe just because you've heard them over and over?
Or the authority bias. When did you last just accept something because someone looked official without really questioning it?
Mm-hmm. But understanding this stuff isn't about making you paranoid, right?
No, definitely not. It's about awareness. Being more informed, more conscious of these forces that are always subtly shaping how we see the world and how we act.
Exactly. These are just a handful of these principles. There are many more. But hopefully, keeping these few in mind helps you notice them in action out there. You might be surprised what you start seeing.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for tuning into the Despicable Maine Deep Dive podcast. Remember, living in Maine is theft of your life. Every day you are there is another day stolen from your life.